Okay, we are live, Abhi.
Okay, guys, a beautiful, warm welcome to everyone who is here and all those who are watching us live on YouTube. We are very happy to have this open house session today, in which we basically, handle questions that are, directly related to you as a pilot. So this was a shift that we decided to make rather than have our sessions to be passive, where it's just, information coming from one end to the other. We have a more active, more interactive kind of a session. So I'm being supported by Ankush, the other instructor here, and being supported by senior club pilots, Rohit, everyone knows him, and Sajid, of course, everyone knows him, and Venik, who's also here with us. Okay, so we'll begin with the questions that we have received. We will begin answering them. They, of course, relate to mostly everyone, and those questions may inspire some question as well in you, and then maybe after 20 minutes or 25 minutes, we have live questions, and you can either write in the chat or raise a hand, and we will deal with those questions. The basic idea is that we are very happy that we are creating an environment for pilots to grow and evolve, and it's a lovely, beautiful platform to become better at what we are doing and safer. So I'll begin with the first one. The first question that is in front of me is from Santosh Dhal. I hope you know him. He was in Bangalore, recently shifted to Düsseldorf, and is trying to get his license there. So his question is related to that. I wanted to be part of upcoming sessions, a session on APPI, IPPI, ACI licensing system, and the worldwide acceptance. Okay, so we thought about it, and we also thought that maybe this topic needs a whole session in itself. So maybe we will cover it in a more detailed and deeper way. But to briefly touch upon it, this is how it goes, the licensing system. Worldwide, countries which have a lot of pilots and are like first world countries like UK, Europe, US, they have a strong national body, and they have their rating system. So like BHPA is the British Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association. Then USPA is the United States Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association. And FFVL is the French one, and so on. And internationally, FAI is the Federation of Aeronautic International, based in France, which kind of regulates aerosports worldwide. Basically focuses on records, etc., and has a rating system as well, which kind of is a model for associations worldwide to follow. Now, this rating system is called IPPI, okay? FAI, IPPI, designed by the Civil. It is called the International Pilot Proficiency Identification. IPPI, it's a card that you get. So International Pilot Proficiency Identification Card, which allows you to fly in any of the countries. It's an international system, you can say. So it goes with your national card. So if I am in UK, I have a BHP card, but I also have IPPI card, which allows me to fly in France, in New Zealand, in Australia, wherever. Okay, so IPPI is the international identification card. In countries where the association has not matured to a level where they have their proper rating system and have enough instructors to run that system with exams and everything, there is an option called APPI, which is similar to PADI. If you know PADI, for example, that is a diving association which kind of looks after the diving certification and rating worldwide. So APPI is based on that model. APPI is Association of Paragliding Pilots and Instructors. It is based in Switzerland, and APPI is an international body. It is present in about 133 countries, and there are schools in about 60 countries, and there are about 10,000 members. In India, fortunately, recently, APPI has, or the Aero Club of India, which is the, you can say, a semi-government aerosport body, which looks to regulate, aerosports in the country, and also represents FAI in our country. So FAI is the central international body, and it has representatives in every country. So in India, Aero Club of India represents FAI. So if you want your IPPI card, you need to go to Aero Club of India. That means if you want an international license, you need to go to the NAC, National Aero Club of your country, which is Aero Club of India in our country. Okay. In some countries, FAI has agreed to allow APPI to issue IPPI cards if the NAC of that country has an agreement with FAI and APPI. Okay, so I was involved in getting this done for UAE, the 7 countries in UAE, and fortunately we got it done in India as well. So now when you get an APPI license, it will have, it's a 3-in-1 kind of a license, which will have, APPI logo on it. It'll have Aero Club of India, and it'll have FAI IPPI identification. So you have all 3 in one. The older senior pilots, remember, we used to be, we had to go to Aero Club of India. We had to physically present ourselves. It was, a long process, and then we had to physically go again to, pick it up, etc. All that is out. Now you can print your own license, okay, from your home. And this license is not only valid in India, which is APPI's official system in India now. You also get IPPI card on it, and it is, relevant in all the countries around the world. So basically, this is what it is. So FAI, the central body, Aero Club of India, the FAI rep in India, and APPI, and different national bodies. So this is how it is. At the moment, we would like that India has its own association. PI is, the Paragliding Association of India, but we've not reached a place where, they have a proper system. So we hope that in future we have our own system, which is equivalent to, the international standards. So that's roughly how it is. To answer Santosh's question, Vanik had a similar question, so I'll just read it out.
But can I add to that? Why do we need a national education system? Out of curiosity.
Say again, please.
Why do we need a national education system? Why do you need a localized education system?
We don't really need, because not all countries have. Like APPI is a good option to have directly an international, a system. And it's not that, like there was an opposition in India as well, that it's a foreign body. It's not a foreign body. I mean, India has representation in APPI. I'm part of the pedagogical committee. So it's not like it's a foreign body. India has a seriously good representation. So yeah, we don't want to go into the, politics of it, because, people want, I mean, there's an opposition from national bodies that why should, an international body be there when we are there? And those are those power games, which are, really irrelevant. But they are there. They are the necessary evil there. But the good thing is that there is a system. And although we may not have the top-notch, association, which is like international level, we have APPI, which is, international standards. It is accepting direct equivalence from some association that APPI recognizes, like FFVL. It does not recognize USPA because it doesn't feel that it has the real standards. but it does recognize FFVL because they're quite similar. And the IPPI rating system of FAI has been designed in association with APPI. Okay, so the pedagogical committee president, Mr. Manu Bond, French, is very much part of the IPPI system that has been designed, and he has made it parallel. So IPPI 1 is equivalent to APPI 1, IPPI 2 is equivalent to APPI 2, and IPPI 5 is equivalent to APPI 5. So they're running almost parallel because the designers are the same. There's a representative from FFVL as well in designing FAI's rating system, which is called SafePro, and there was a member from BHP as well. So it is kind of currently the best system they have come out with, which covers the latest developments in techniques, etc. And IPPI and APPI are pretty much on the same lines. So going a little further on Vanik's other questions, he asks, will certification and education systems ever be consolidated? So I answered that it has been consolidated, and we have an international system, which is IPPI, which is pretty much the same as APPI. Okay, so it has been consolidated. Will IPPI and FAI 2 converge? So IPPI is FAI's baby itself. So I don't know if you meant APPI or FAI. IPPI. Okay.
Sorry, what I meant by that question was, in a proficiency system, and if one organization is recognizing another's standards, is there a case where they all converge? And let's forget the names also of the organizations. I'm saying if there are multiple organizations saying that, okay, I respect your proficiency system. So is there a case for all of them to ever come together and say, okay, this is the universal standard for education, and this is the universal standard for anywhere in the world?
So IPPI is that system, okay? IPPI is that system which is, international, and it is giving a freedom to the national bodies that, this is what we have come up with. The best minds in the world have come up with this, and it is also giving freedom to the national bodies depending on, your, country rules. Play with this, but this is the gold standard. APPI is the same as IPPI. So this is what exists now. So yeah, I mean, we are almost there. It is kind of standard at the moment. Okay. Your last question was, will APPI be as big as PADI in diving anytime soon? Well, it's a fast-growing sport worldwide, and like I said, we have 10,000 members in APPI in 133 countries, which is huge, and there are 100 schools in about 50 countries. So it is growing in numbers. We are coming up with a new website, which will be up very soon. And things like your certification book, etc., will all become online. You don't have to physically carry it. And, all your records are there online. And, if you go to some other country and you just, show your license, the instructor can just see, okay, this is where you are. And these kind of theory sessions have been done. Tasks wise, this is what you have done. I know exactly where you are and whatever. And if this person wants to, know something about you, you can just directly drop me a mail and I can answer. So it's becoming a very beautiful, homogeneous, organic kind of a system where it's easy for the pilot, and his ease of travel is also taken care of. Okay. So yeah, we're going in a good direction. Okay, so that is about the first question for today.
I had a follow-up question on the same thing.
Yeah.
So what I had to do was to, after APPI stopped giving insurances last year, I had to take an FFVL license right now. So I have an FFVL license. I have the insurance from FFVL, both the individual injury plus the third party plus rescue. So now when I have to do my courses, I would still prefer the APPI system than going for the FFVL system because it's a little bit different in terms of language as well. So I was thinking I have to now maintain 2 licenses, APPI as well as FFVL. So in that case, I think I have to wait until APPI starts their insurance again.
Yes, we'll have to update you on that because of, the situation currently that the world is undergoing. The insurance companies have kind of withdrawn and they want to relook at the packages they have promised. So we'll have to update you on that, and the work is going on. Okay. Once it's up, then of course you can use it. And yeah, I mean, a lot of instructors, even, in France, people like Theo Bilic, who's a world champion, and other top-notch guys, instructors who teach, for years, have liked the APPI system. And in the last, workshop, they were part of this workshop. They had come to, get the instructor licenses because they like this system, which is more current with the world, not like old system, which is kind of, it takes your freedom away. Especially the French one is like, too tight, and people are preferring, APPI over it because it affords more freedom and it's more current. So yeah, we hope the insurance thing gets settled and we can, continue taking advantage of that because the APPI insurance is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we move to the second question is from Anurag Khetan. I think he's also moved to Munich. He is asking the way and process to move from assisted flying to moving towards independent flying end to end without the support like we get at school. Okay, so this is one. I'm going to hand this over to Rohit, who's gone through the process and can share a lot. And I think there was one more question which is similar to this one, I think asked by Kaiser. Or no. So yeah, I mean, this concerns everybody. Like, it's a very basic question that, how do I graduate from school to becoming an independent pilot? So yeah, over to you, Rohit.
I need to unmute. Yeah, you guys can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess this is a very interesting topic, and all around the world, things are done differently. And I would say in India, we still have a lot of relationship-based environment where the school still continues to assist you after your course. I mean, if you happen to do your courses anywhere else in the world, once the course is done, while you're in the course, they will be all helpful, supporting you. Need as much as help professionally, they'll help you to the end. But the moment the course is done, for various reasons, liability and so on, they would stop assisting you, helping you, or coaching you, because then that puts them in a liability position. So what we have in India is actually much better, but that also creates a problem that our pilot starts depending really a lot on school, even after they finish their courses. I mean, courses are designed, let's say the club pilot level is really what I've seen, the course, the material, number of days, number of hours is really something that will make you independent pilot. But the reality is no amount of course or preparation certification actually makes you an independent pilot. What really helps you is to assimilate the basics and really get mastery over it. And that's when you can actually move to different environment, a new takeoff with some other pilot that you don't know. They're not yet very friendly with you. They can tell you the basic stuff, but they're not going to be babysitting you at all. So what are those things? So you might have started your career, let's say in Kamshet, right? So you are used to the takeoffs, the ground handling in certain wind conditions. And you reach soon to a point where all your takeoffs are successful. You don't need any assistance. You've been landing safely. Great. And often we think, yeah, now I think I'm ready to start going to different sites and start being on my own. And the first time they, let's say, come to beat, I have seen pilots really struggling with their takeoffs and so on. So very first step for you to become that independent pilot is sort your basic ground handling, takeoffs and landing in different sites, different elevation, different takeoff condition, where the air is so rarefied that your takeoffs and landings are fast. You have very less front wind to take off. You have to do almost front takeoff. So get really proficient with all these conditions, because once those are sorted, then the remaining part is about the new location, understanding the location, understanding the weather condition, what's safe for you, what conditions are something that you can handle safely. There are many things that starts playing a role. And often I think people jump too early before they really work on their basic. They arrive to this new site, and a bunch of us as a club pilot, we see clearly, I mean, looking at the way you picked up your wing, let's say in Panchgani, and you're getting like lifted and dropped, we could clearly see you're not ready for that. All you can say to that pilot, because as a club pilot, I can just advise you, I can't force you to do anything. So we walk to a person and say that, take it easy, maybe you're not ready yet, work on it and then come back. But take that with humility, that kind of a feedback. So I would say go back to the basics. Go back to the basics and really sharpen them, really be so good at it that then your mind is free to learn new things, new environment, new conditions. And other big part of your shift is also creating your circle of pilots that you fly with. Choose your company wisely. Sometimes some of the companies can be really ground suck. They won't help you to really progress as a pilot. Those things will start playing a role in the whole progression. But again, nobody's going to help you with your basic takeoffs, landings, and stuff that you have to master really well before you start becoming that independent pilot. Anybody else, Avi, you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic,
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about, paragliding is that the buck stops with you. Okay. You can't blame anyone. You're on your own and it is your decision making and you are responsible. And it's saying a lot about the sport. And like Rohit said, number one thing is the launches, because we go on a launch and, we are nervous because, we're not sure because, the environment is new, the terrain looks very new, etc. So ground handling simply on flat ground is not good enough. That's why we push people on the slope in our advanced guiding clinics. You need to be really good with your glider in different conditions, like he said, weak wind, medium wind, strong wind, gentle slope, steeper slope, forward launch, reverse launch. Really crack the launches and really get that card in your pocket really good. Because now when you go to the takeoff, you're already comfortable because you can pull off a clean, safe takeoff. And then now, because you're free, like your mind is free, you can observe and what's happening to the sky, what are the danger areas. You can assess the site very well. You can assess the conditions very well. And you need to be good with your equipment, that time is ripe and you go. So number one priority should be work on your launches, which is ground handling, kiting on slope in different variable conditions. That's the top priority. And take help of your courses that you're going through. I would say you should at least have APPI 4, which has given you enough to do now a good solid foundation and knowledge and skill to go and explore. So I would recommend that. So yeah, I mean, that comes to my mind to share. But it is your decision. You will know, that yes, I look good, I'm feeling confident, I'm prepared, I've done this, and I feel good about doing this on my own. Then go for it. But if you feel, like something is holding you back, that nagging feeling, please pay attention to that. That's your own inborn intelligence that is trying to tell you something. You should listen to that and not be taken away by peer pressure or external factors, which are, abhi haan ye kar raha, main bhi karta hu, arey bahut ho gaya, main bhi karta hu, etc. These are external reasons which are not good reasons. You are the decision maker, and go by your gut feel, see how you feel, and take informed and good decisions. Okay. So if something else comes to anyone's mind, you can just pop it in the chat and we can talk more about this. We'll move ahead with the next question. It's again from Santosh. how to anticipate and stop getting carried away while doing any maneuver. Interesting. He's giving an example. While doing wing over, for example, or any other maneuver, how to manage balance between looking at the wing control and the traffic or surrounding, etc. So I'm going to be asking Sajid to, talk on this a bit. Sajid, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Santosh. That's a very good question, man.
And the right person to answer.
I don't know about that, but yeah, it's your question touches on a lot of basic things and which are very important for anyone who's doing any maneuvers to know. And this only comes with experience and how proficient you're with that particular maneuver. First of all, if you're doing any maneuver, learning anything, you're doing it over water. You're doing it in Bilaspur, or you're doing it in Turkey, or doing some other place, any part of the world, but you're doing it on water. Now in Turkey also, what happens is if you're doing any maneuver, you need to clear your space around you and vertically below you. So there are a lot of, whenever we start any maneuver over the box, so Turkey has got a lot of boxes, right? You can choose which box you want. You can go closer to the smaller two islands and then do it over there, or near the beach, or not over the beach, but closer to the beach. So what mostly people do is people who are wanting to do a high descent rate maneuver, they want to do closer to the beach, because in case, so they get a longer time to do it, and then they have a very shorter time to the beach, to fly to the beach. If you're in the middle of the box, you will have to finish your maneuver a little bit earlier, so that you have that long glide back to the beach. So your time gets lower. So you can choose that, but you need to clear that. Now, clearing how much you want is dependent upon the kind of maneuver you're doing. If you're doing a wing over, it's a very slow descent rate. But if you're doing a SAT, it's a high descent rate. So you need to know how much lower you are clear. If you're doing a nose down spiral, it's the fastest way down, right? Now, not only are you going to clear your way down vertically, but you also want to clear the way. Once you reach the particular point where you want to exit, you want to have clearance on the horizontal plane also, because in a dynamic exit, you will end up moving sideways. When you exit, you'll not exit to the same place. You could exit at any point, because in a SAT and a spiral, you will probably have some idea. You will see sea and you'll see beach, you'll see and beach, sea and beach, sea and beach. When you see brown part, you try to exit, but you'll end up facing the sea. So you don't know who's around you. So that has happened. This happened to me in Beer. First of all, when you're comfortable over water, then you do it on land. So I was trying a helico on Karthik's glider on Beer landing, above Beer landing, and it was very light, and it was not getting into the helico. It was stalling but not getting in. And I have a video of this, and I had cleared myself, but there was a tandem glider on this side, and I knew he was away. So I started my maneuver and I ended turning facing the mountain. But this guy kept coming to me, and I had to go into a dive, and I had a asymmetric collapse, and I got out of it. But people don't realize it over land. So on water, they know that you're going to do it. They also stay away. But on land, you need to be clear. Now, that is a very basic kind of an answer, and everyone knows that. But the important part is when you know your maneuver properly, and you're not overthinking and complicating it while doing the maneuver, you have the possibility to look around and take notice of things. For example, you are talking about the wing over maneuver. A lot of people learn it in a sequential way. Okay, I need to do this, then number two, number three, number four, I need to do this. But if you learn it in a different way, and that leaves your mind free, if you understand the basics, your mind is freer to do other things. For example, if you re-look at wing over as a maneuver which is a play between two energies. One is the energy of the wing, diving, and the other one is you're transferring that energy into gravity, and the gravity is given by you. Okay, currently what we do is outside weight shift, outside brake, down, wait, check first, and then wait, and then come out, then inside brake and outside brake. So there's a lot of steps involved. But if you look at it this way, that you get the glider into a dive, okay? You get the glider, you build it, obviously, you build it and you get it into a dive. Your job here is to stop the glider by checking, okay? Now this energy of the dive is now transferred to you as a gravity. All that you need to do is just exist. Then gravity is going to take over and pull you down, okay? As it's pulling you down, before you reach the 6 o'clock position, you transfer the gravity energy that's been built up back into the wing energy, and you just point the glider on this direction. That's all you need to do. And you stop it here. Again, the energy from here will take over to gravity. You will fall under the wing, and you just, before you reach the 6 o'clock position, you point the wing this direction and stop it. So there are only two things happening here. You're transferring the energy from the wing energy and letting the gravity do its job. There's nothing you can do except fall underneath. So if you have these two things in your mind, that let the glider dive, check, stop, let me fall down. As I'm falling down, before I reach 6 o'clock, I will direct the glider to go this side, and I'll check when it reaches a point. Makes it simple in your mind, and it gives you a lot of time to free your mind to think. Avi, you want to say something?
No, I mean, we didn't want to go in details of, the maneuvers. Sorry to cut you there. I think his question is like, how to stop from getting carried away. I mean, I have 2 points I'd like to say. That whatever maneuver you want to go into, you need to know what it is about. Okay. And there are, like Sajid said, there are steps to it, and you go in a stepwise fashion. If you go into something and you don't know what is the reaction going to be, it's going to surprise you. You're practicing wing overs, but you don't know how to recover from an asymmetric collapse. You're doing the wrong thing. So, okay, before I practice wing overs, I need to know how to get out of an asymmetric rotation, because you can get into it. SAT, for example, if you pull too hard, you can go into a spiral. If you pull, if you pull too hard, you can go into a dynamic spin. If you pull too less, you go into a spiral. You need to know how to get out of a spiral, and you need to know how to get out of a dynamic spin. So you need to know the worst case scenarios when you're practicing something, and you should have already, cracked those first. So once you know what the worst can happen, I can get out of that. On this end, this is the worst that can happen. I can get out of that. Now you are free to play inside. Okay, you have the freedom to play. And, I think Sajid will agree with me. People think, acro is dangerous and XC is safer. It is actually the other way around. Acro guys know exactly what they're doing, and they are really safe. There are no accidents in acro, really. Accidents are in cross country. So maneuvers have a proper, process, and learn it the right way, knowing what can go wrong, and you know how to get out of that. And inside that, you can really play. Guys are doing wing overs with, the body is directly above the wing, and from ground it looks, oh my God, this guy is crazy. He's not crazy. He is doing exactly what he knows he's doing, and it is a step-by-step process. It's a beautiful process, and he's not taking any chances. He's not doing anything dangerous. He's totally in control of what he's doing. Okay. So that's what I'd like to add. And like Sajid mentioned in the beginning, airspace is very important. It's a good question that you asked. Airspace should be very clear before you do anything. People should know that you are doing something, and they stay away from you. And before you start, I need this much of height, and literally I need this much of space. If I don't have that space, I don't do it. So I hope that answers your question. Sajid, you want to conclude?
No, I just was explaining that part to tell you that if you less complicate stuff about any maneuver, you have mind free to do other things. But if you're going to go into a maneuver with a lot of stuff and learning it, and then it's going to create a lot of confusion. So understand the basics first before you get into that. That's was my point.
Okay, thank you, Saj. Next question is, what
I guess we lost Abhi.
I don't think he looked out for traffic.
Maybe Ninad, you can take over to read the question.
Yeah, I'm just going through the questions. Okay, next question was from Ankush Manwe. How one should assess himself for changing the wing to next level? Yeah, Rohit, this is for you.
Sure. So before I answer that question, let's set the context, because everything is different with different pilot, where they are and so on. But typically, I would assume this question is about a pilot moving from, let's say, ENA to ENB, or someone with just out of school. Should I take my first wing as low B? All these questions, in a way, I can combine it to one thought process. So often we think about changing the glider in terms of the certification, the ENAs and ENBs and so on. As you well know, all these tests are actually in the calm air and about how glider recovers when things go wrong. That's all these certification is about. It's never about how difficult or easy it is to fly the glider. Okay. So that's one major difference that you should get in the head. Even I have done my initial days counting the number of Bs in a ENB glider and say, hey, you just got a 2 Bs and that too with the accelerated flight. All are otherwise A. So it's like almost A glider. No, it isn't. If designer has intended this glider to be made for ENB pilots, it is for ENB pilots. Yeah, it may score A on a lot of recovery maneuvers, but that's all. That's all that is about. Everything else, it's going to behave like ENB. Now, what is the main difference between, let's say, ENA and ENB? I think the biggest jump that pilot takes is when he moves from ENA to ENB, be it a low B, mid B, whatever. Because first time, a glider, typical ENA glider, which is designed to actually fly on its own. The pilot gives minimal inputs in terms of the directions and everything. Everything else, the roll, pitch, it's all so nicely smoothened, dampened in ENA gliders that they hardly need any hands-on. In fact, if you try to correct them, the gliders are designed to even ignore your inputs, unless you go to the extreme end of inputs, like extreme brake on one side or extreme both the brakes. The gliders are actually designed to literally ignore your inputs. I mean, they fly on their own. Okay, yeah. So that's the ENA glider for you. The glider that is designed by the designer to fly on its own. You as a pilot are sitting underneath and just nudging it to the direction that you want to go. That's pretty much the controls you have. Unless you are in a very thermic air and you're super loaded, then that glider can be responsive. Now, when you go to ENB, understand that ENB gliders are this glider, it will now accept your inputs as this is what you want to do. It won't try to impose its own flying characteristic. Take an example, if it senses a lift, it will very well try to get sucked towards it. It won't try to stay stable over your head. And as a pilot, you need to add a little bit brake to keep that surge in check. If you add too much brake quickly, it will happily enter the spin because it's not going to dampen things out for you. So that means you will move from ENA glider, which is self-flying almost, keeping you safe, to ENB glider, which will be almost, I would say, a real craft as a pilot you'll be piloting. But then you need to really be prepared to give the right inputs and at right amount of time inputs. Two things. So when do you know that you're ready to go from ENA to ENB? Of course, my advice, and that's what I have even done, start with the ENAs or extremely simple B, if you can, and get the basics right. Because when you have the basic right, and I think we already talked about how to become independent pilot, your takeoffs, your landings, your ground handling, your all different conditions of thermic air takeoffs, thermic air ground handling, nil wind takeoffs, nil wind landings. All different scenarios are well covered. You have been soaring pretty good for some time. You have a full confidence. You have done your SIVs because SIVs on Bs are much harder than As. So does on all the higher category glider. In fact, some of the experienced pilots, even flying for a number of years cross country and sea, if they come and want to learn SIV, it's advisable often to put them on a B glider to get them used to the maneuver, and then you do the same maneuver on A and B. So it's very easy to learn those maneuvers in SIV with ENA glider. So you do your SIV, so you will be ready to handle in case things go wrong on ENB, because ENB is not going to be as forgiving as ENA, right? So when you have all these basics in place, I believe you are right to set to move to ENB. Now, again, in that jump, I have a counter product, a point to add from the other side. Other side is, do not stay too long also on ENA. For example, I believe I have stayed like for 100 hours on ENA. What happens is soon your instincts of actually doing active piloting that I mentioned gets dumbed down, because you have been flying such a glider that has been taking care of you for so long, and that can be demerital as well. But yeah, in case you are a pilot, you just want to be happy soaring and you do not want to do much of a thermaling, by all means, you can stay on ENA. You don't need, do not move to another glider because everyone around you is doing that, or just cool or whatever. Do it when you are trying to achieve something and the glider is hindering you from achieving that, be it a better thermaling, be it a cross country that you want to do. That's when you really use that glider. If you can achieve everything that you want to do in your flying with a current glider, why even upgrade? I mean, many glider people are happy with their Bs, high Bs. They never go to Cs. Many C guys are not looking for even more, active, high energy and D gliders. So absolutely fine to stay where you are enjoying your flying. Anybody wants to add anything there?
Sajid, anything from you? Anik?
Yeah, I think Rohit has given a very good idea as to what is A to B. But what is it actually to feel A to B? A to B, when you fly, what is the feeling that you get? The feeling is the energy management. The feeling is the sudden energy that you feel. If you usually are used to turning flat, when you turn, the A glider will turn flat. The moment you get into a B, mid B, high B, the moment you turn, it'll sort of dive and come out of it. So now you need to clear your space when you're turning very tight near terrain or anywhere else. So that management of energy is something that is new from when you shift from A to B. And that also goes into thermaling and other maneuvers. That's my.
Okay, what comes to my mind to add is that there are ranges in A as well now, like you have a low A and a high A. There's a whole range in B as well, like a low B, a medium B, and a high B. That's one. Number two, you should have you need to outgrow the A to, go to the B. You should have really pushed it to the, limits, because it's a very common thing. People jump from A to B and C, like, not really getting to know the glider thoroughly and properly. Things are fine, but when things go south, okay, things go really bad, a safer glider will really save you that day, and not something that, you are not ready to fly and you've taken it on. So I think it should be a mature decision. We covered this last season as well, how to choose a glider. There are various factors, things like, where you are flying, what kind of flying you'll be doing, what is your fitness level, what is your age, etc., etc. Okay, so watch these videos again. That they're on our YouTube channel, how to choose a glider. I think we did 2 sessions, and consider everything, and then go for an informed decision. And always good to consult your mentor or instructor or a friend who flies with you. They know your style, they know your attitude, and they will give a good suggestion. And of course, it's your free will to finally take the final decision. Okay, so we move ahead. If something related to this comes, please feel free to put it in the chat. Next one. I think a similar question was asked by Kesar as well. I hope that got answered. And how much is the difference between different class gliders? Is it marginal or drastic? Oh, it's quite marginal. Okay, if you see the glide difference between A and B, it will be 4 to 6%. It's not big. Okay, so margins are not really big between the gliders. If that is your question. People have done 100 kilometers on E and A, and you can do all acro maneuvers on an A and a B, except the infinity tumbling and one or two more. Otherwise, there's everything you can do on A's and B's. So that's answering Keza, his two questions, and Ankush, Mandve's question has been answered. Okay. Rohit, we'll get back to you with next question from Ankush Mandve itself, I think. In nil wind landing, what is the exact time for full flare? And that's a very smart, interesting question. I'm sure you've experienced hard landings, and we'll start with Rohit. Go for it.
So let's look at a very simple answer. So Ankush, the simplest answer that I can give will be, look, if you have been landing with a flare, let's say at 4 or 5 feet closer to the ground, you need to at least have the same flare starting early. Early can be, let's say, from 10 feet, and flare speed will also be higher to convert all the energy that you have to the vertical lift, right? Now, this is a very simple answer, and yeah, you try it next time, it will work. But then there are different scenarios when even this will not work. And for that, I'm going to take a little bit of your time, guys. Maybe I'll start with a little story. I mean, 2012, I was in Yelagiri, and while we were landing, there was a huge field down to land. And first day I would come to land with my ENA glider 2 years into the flying, perfectly comfortable with my landings. I have never had like a crashing landings. I would come for a landing with a little bit of a pressure on my brake, and I flare and nothing. I'm just plummeting to the ground. Okay, I just realized maybe I didn't have my hands up properly. One of the things that you need to ensure for that nil wind landing is come with the complete hands up, and from, let's say, 10 feet you flare. Next time I decided, fine, at 10 feet, my hand was completely up. I was ready to flare. But as I came to 10 feet, again, I just plummeted to the ground. I hit the ground again hard. And I couldn't understand what's going on. And I saw even one of the senior pilot doing the same in front of me. So that got me thinking, what's this really? I mean, the how part is really important. And just bear with me for a little bit of a theory here. When you come for landing, what happens here, right? You're landing. What's a landing? A human can run, let's say, comfortably 10 kilometers per hour. So we need to have the speed when you touch down the ground at 10 kilometers. How about if the ground is uneven? It has a stones, it has a hole, big pits. You can't even run at 10 kilometers per hour. That means you need to really have your forward speed reduced to 6-7 kilometers per hour to safely touch down. But that's not the only variable. Other variable is when you touch the ground, your descent rate has to be, let's say, 1 meter, 1.5 meters per second, 3 to 4 feet jumping from the air, let's say. That's a safe, right? If you are, let's say, typically a camshaft pilot, even if you glide to the ground, your descent rate for E and A and B is like a 1.2 meters per second, very safe. So all you have to do is just reduce your speed with the brake flare and you land safely because your descent is already safe, right? But there are different situations where your descent can be much higher than that glider standard 1.2 meters per second. Why? The Yelagiri case that I explained is actually a wind gradient. That landing is actually in a bowl. So when I enter that air mass in the landing area, suddenly the air texture changes. And due to that, my glider is trying to actually dive towards the ground. And when it's diving towards the ground, its descent rate is suddenly 2 to 3 meters per second. And then no matter what I do, I try to reduce the speed. My speed will reduce, but I will not be able to convert the energy at which I'm coming to the ground into a slow descent. Now I introduced a new term for you guys, energy management. So in paragliding, as you know, we don't have any motor, right? So what we can only do is convert one energy form to another. Sajid explained that a bit. So what we can do is we can use the energy in our glider as we are gliding. And with that speed, that's why I asked you guys to stay hands up. As you come fast, you have certain energy in the glider. And as you flare, that energy will get converted, the speed will get converted to almost a slow parallel flying or even climb out, and you will be able to land safely. That's how you reduce your descent rate, because as you flare, instead of coming very fast at this angle, you will be able to slightly create a lift with that additional energy, and you land safely. I mean, you must have seen bird swooping down and landing all the time. You know, birds come at very high speed towards the ground, whoosh, and they just land safely. So we have seen that with the birds landing as well. Now, if you understand that, so you'll understand soon that in certain condition, even you coming up with the hands up is not going to be enough, because other variables for you to land are even bigger. So that means even if you come with a complete hands up and you flare at, let's say, 10 feet from the ground, still you can hit the ground. What are those conditions? One condition, as I mentioned, is the Yelagiri wind gradient. Second can be in beer, sometimes it's complete nil wind. Or in beer, often if you outland, you can't choose always the headwind. Because what happens in calm shade, even though you might be coming with the hands up, the wind reduces your speed, the ground speed. So you might be actually coming with a low ground speed, but your glider is still flying nicely at 40 km/h, right? But you don't feel it. You feel safe. You feel safe because the ground is moving not more than 10, 15 km/h, right? Feels very safe. The same thing changes. Let's say in a nil wind condition in beer, air is thin, so your glider speed actually is like 1 or 2 km higher than usual. You might be zooming towards the ground when your hands up. And as a pilot, you start feeling scared, you start touching your brake, you reduce the speed a little bit as you're coming towards the ground. And what remains in your flare is not much to convert all that fast diving into that last lift and for you to touch down safely, right? So what are your options? I mean, one option, that senior friend that I told you in Yelagiri, what he did, he's an extremely expert acro pilot. Next flight, while he came over the landing, he just started adding little bit of oscillations. He was acro pilot. So he could just come at the last swoop with oscillation, and he could just zoom close to the ground and swoop up and use that energy of swooping up, and he flared at that moment and he could land safely, right? Now that is too, I would say, advanced. Even I've been practicing it, but I'm nowhere close to that accuracy. But there are simpler techniques for you to do. One simple technique, and that's safe to try in any ENA, ENB, ENC glider. Now here, the class of glider will also matter, because we started with energy, and energy is different in ENA. You have much less energy to play with. B has better, C has even better, right? But what can help you, let's say with your ENB glider, you can come towards the final approach with a bit of a break. You still have like 20 feet above the ground. You come with 20-30% break. Now you have aligned yourself nicely to the runway. You're still about 20 feet from the ground. The breaks that you have, let's say 30%, you suddenly put your hands up. That sudden hands up creates a dive in the glider. The glider starts diving and it starts going fast close to the ground. Now here is when you need to hold your nerve. Do it first higher. You have to practice this, because you need to know how much the glider is going to dive, because if it dives very close to the ground, you're going to get smacked on the ground. So this is when now the practice comes into picture. So you suddenly raise your hand, the glider will start going fast towards the ground. Now, as it comes very close to the ground, you start touching the brake. All that energy that's available in your glider as diving, the moment you touch the brake, will get converted to a lift. And instead of continue to plummet to the ground, you will suddenly start slowing down and start flying parallel to the ground. And then you can add any point the remaining brakes and you can land safely. If you feel that when you add the brake, you suddenly are climbing again, that means you added too much brakes, right? So after the dive, you touch the brake and you see how much lift are you getting. If you're getting too much lift, just hold it. Don't change it. If you change it, you're going to get smacked on the ground. So just hold it there. It will bleed out. It will start flying parallel soon. Then you use the remaining brake. So this movement cannot be jerky. So you'll raise your hand, it go. Once close to the ground, you touch the brake, trying to see how much is getting converted. If you feel it's not converting enough to the lift, you start adding more and all the way down to your full flight. It's complicated. It takes time to practice, and you have to practice it because there are situations you can't avoid landing in a nil or crosswinds. And those are the preparations that you need to do to fly in a cross-country areas, beer and so on, where if you outland, the best and safest landing is actually to land crosswind, because in beer, there are these terraces which are like, parallel to each other. And if you try to land in the wind, you might be on the slope, and depending on your glider, you might just continue flying infinitely, and there might be a wire or something later that you will get, stuck at. So it's better to land crosswind in beer along the field. For sure, it's flat. So, and the length as well. So you purposely not land in the wind in such scenario. And the only way to do that safely is to have this energy, higher energy created. And using this energy, you convert that energy to nice touchdown. Now, how to create the energy? We talked about that wing over-like approach. We talked about the last minute dive. There are one more technique that I have been practicing, the speed bar landing. The speed bar also adds more energy by adding bars, so you're coming towards the ground much faster than usual. All these are progression. First you get the basic simple nil wind landing, which is nothing but hands up, use the energy. At some point in time, that energy, if it's not sufficient, you can start practicing for different maneuvers. These are really the tools that you need to sharpen in your box and use them right at different situations. What makes it easier is different class of glider. The stuff that I mentioned, ENA gliders don't really dive. They don't really, because they are designed safe, right? So they're not going to really go very fast. They'll stick to their basic speed. Bs can do. Cs have even higher energy, so they even assist you better doing this sort of stuff. So long-winded answer, but the simplest answer is at your, let's say ENA, ENB, your safe bet is to come with the complete hands up close to the ground. And as you come about 5 to 7 feet, start applying the full flare. Okay. Anyone wants to add?
Okay, I think that's quite detailed. Couple of things that come to my mind to add is, number one, make sure that your feet are down and that you're ready to run, because you may not be able to bleed off all the energy, and you got that sorted. Number two, you have to start thinking now as you progress in terms of speed and energy. So what he's trying to say, like ENA glider, like, you come down and there's no wind to oppose, to use the brake, and there's no juice or just no purchase in the brakes to slow you down. So there's no energy. So that is why we are getting speed. So we get the speed so that, the brakes are effective, and I'm able to, get some purchase from the brake to be able to, cushion my landing. So you have to start thinking in terms of speed and energy to crack the nil wind landings. Keep your feet down. You may have to land sometime, let us say, downwind as well. Okay. So the thing is that if your feet are down, okay, and as you are coming and you're trying to fly this parallel, trying to fly parallel to the ground, if you can just touch one foot and then next foot, and you are, running, every foot you touch is reducing the load on the glider. And as you remove the load on the glider, the speed is also going. Imagine like the glider is flying and you remove the weight and it has no speed. So by running, you're reducing the speed of the glider. So be ready with your running and start to think in terms of, speed and energy to understand the timing of the flare. So you come, you apply brakes to fly parallel. Initially, you'll make mistake. It'll be 2, 3, 4 feet, whatever. It's okay. You get better with practice. And as you're flying parallel, you will know that, okay, now the energy is going. Now I will touch down. That's the time you use the rest of the brake to give you a short climb and that tuck, 0 speed, 0 sink rate, and tuck you land. So like you mentioned, it's practice, 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 and you get better. And instead of mechanical braking, you start thinking in terms of speed and energy. Okay, we are at 12 o'clock and we have just covered a few questions. Next one. Okay. Vishal asked this question. Seriously, how does one for sure know which side the core is on? How to avoid wasting time on trial and error without a device? Okay, so I'm going to ask Vanik to start answering the question and we can chip in. Vanik, you got it?
Nice, XC cross-country hungry question. And love it. So first things first, thermaling is a black art. It takes a lifetime to master it. So this question, there's a simple answer and there's a long-winded answer. The simple answer is that as you get into the more active wings, they have the anatomy, which is the sharp nose or the cord cut below, or different companies use different terminology for the same kind of profiles of the wing, which is the nose. What it does is it helps you, the wing suck, it sniffs out the strongest part of the climb. So your body has an internal gyroscope, which can detect movement in multiple axes, which is acceleration and direction, which is pitch, roll, yaw, and acceleration as well. So an entire lifetime we spend trying to fine tune that gyroscope. And the simple answer to your question is, if you let the glider fly on a good quality glider, the wing will start pulling you into the core. You put your weight shifter slightly out. You're trying to balance so that the next turn you whip it into the core and you go up, so that you don't fall in and out of the core. The idea is you use the energy which is building up as you get sucked into it, and use that energy to whip up when you go up. Once you're in the core, you have to keep the thing really tidy, and it's just tiny brake inputs. It's only so much, and the left hand is as efficiently up as possible. You're trying to turn as efficiently as possible. You're not choking the glider. You're not applying a lot of brake. You're allowing the glider to fly. One thing I want to refer here to is Bruce Goldfoot. He said that until 2012, I think the wings were meant to be flown with a lot more brakes, but now the wings are meant to be flown with a lot more hands up. Your best performance is hands up flying rather than brakes flying. That's a simple answer where you develop the gyroscope. But the complicated answer, all of us are trying to get good at thermaling. Trust me. Even Kriegel Maurer said something like, "I'm not the best climber in the world. I'm probably the best glider in the world." He glides really well, but there are people better than me in climbing. So even when you're in a core, there could be a core on your left-hand side, which is going up at 0.5 meters per second faster than on the core which you are at. So unless you have an indicator, you have no way of knowing if there's a core literally just 10 meters to your left, which is going up faster. So this is constant practice of opening the car, seeing if there's something stronger out there, trying to feel every single roll motion on your unloaded side, which is your left-hand side, trying to feel all of that stuff. That's what we are trying to evolve over a lifetime. I'm sorry, I don't have a simple answer for this. The simple answer is that, like, you allow the glider to fly and allow it to build energy, and then you whip it into that core and you go off. But again, that core which you're thinking about is a cylinder. It's only usually during stable days where there's a perfect amount of heat and pressure, and you have a nice cylinder which goes up to the cloud base. But 75 to 80% of the time, you have unstable days where the core is fizzy. You have bubbles going up in cycles. And sometimes the core is bent like that. Sometimes it's sheared like that. So even the sucking mechanism which I'm talking about, you might fall out of the thermal, and you'll have to go back, and you need to have techniques to search for it. And it's usually what I tend to do is just hands up flying. The glider sniffs it out for me, and I have an instant vario, which it gives me instant feedback on if I'm in the core or not. So an instant vario along with developing the internal gyroscope is a simple answer. Now the second part of the question, without instruments, there's a philosophical answer to this as well. A lot of people have very different opinions. I personally feel that it's best to start flying without instruments well into your paragliding. I mean, you're really a master at nailing 3-figure flights. You're really good at acro. You're able to read the weather really well. that's when you get into this euphoric state where you fly without any instruments, no noise. You are with the elements. That's utopian, according to me. It takes a lot of years of practice and skill to develop it. Initially, you might bump into a thermal and you might take it up to cloud base and stuff like that, but it's a false positive. It's not a long-term plan because able to judge lines, able to judge whether I can make it to the next trigger point, all that stuff, it takes years and years of practice. So that's my answer to the question. And it's one of our favorite questions. I think all of us debated a lot on this question. So I think Avi and Rohit, even you guys probably should chime in on this.
Rohit, go ahead.
No, nothing much to add. I mean, this is a topic that we can spend a day on.
Yeah.
But just something I'll just remind, interesting quote in the recent from one of the top pilots in the world. You got to be inefficient to fly efficiently. And I'm guilty of not even practicing it enough. The moment I'm in the core, often I keep looking around it, but I do not want to leave the safety net of nice 2 meters per second that I have. So in order to actually find that, as Vanik said, next to you 10 meters, 20 meters, there might be 4 meters per second core. How do you find it? And the way to find that is leave your 2 meters per second, go on still exploring outside it in different directions. And if you don't stumble upon anything better, you come back to it and you continue to fly. So that's inefficient. You be inefficient so that your chances of actually stumbling upon that stronger are there. I mean, one of the best pilots around us that I've flown is Viz. Viz is extremely inefficient in the classic thermaling way. I mean, we'll be doing a very nice, perfect circles often around, and Viz will always go amoeba. He'll just go searching around. Often he may not find something. He'll come back to us and again fly with us. But often he gets lucky. And we say it's just the voodoo, but he actually takes more risk exploring more area around the thermal. And that's when he stumbles upon some of those lucky, stronger thermals, and he really goes way, higher than us. Always impresses us.
I agree to that. I think that's one nice attitude about him. He tries to explore more. He opens his turns. He could be lower in some thermals, no problem. But he has the confidence that he'll catch up with us, even if he's lower, because he knows that there's a core going up over there. I can come into that any point of time. He knows that. So he is actually, you need to have that three-dimensional aspect thinking where, you already have one in the pocket. Okay, now I'm going to explore for something else. If it's not there, I can come back to this and maybe it was a tiny risk factor. That's a good point which you made there.
Okay, to add to that, number one is that the second part of your question, it's a good idea, to put off the Vario sometimes when, you're by yourself and, there's easy lift. It's a good idea to, develop your feel. And it's possible, that you're in some, not a good place and, your Vario conks off and then you're not totally at sea and you don't know how to react and you're just cursing instead of falling back on your own, feel and instinct to get out of the situation. So it's always a good idea to, whenever you can, to put it off and develop the feel for it. In any case, when you're thermaling, you'll realize that you get to know the lift, before the Vario tells you. There is a bit of a delay there. So it's always a good idea to try that. Other thing I would like to add to this particular topic is that thermaling is a huge game. And like mentioned before, it's an ongoing and endless learning program. So it's a good idea to have solid foundation. It's a good idea to have a process to build and become good at this. So one can keep trialing and erroring and wasting a lot of time. But if somebody goes in a proper way, where somebody's looking at you and can tell you where you're going wrong and can see the holes in your thermaling, start with very basics. You get your turns right. You learn how to open and close the turns half a second, 1 second. Your turns are really clean. Your active piloting has become a subconscious automatic, and your mind is free to now deal with understanding the thermal and be able to map the thermal and to get the best out of it. So go step by step, build it strongly so that you can then work on the finer things. And it takes quite a while. It takes quite a while to, get good at this. And then, and that builds your confidence for cross-country flying. You know that, if I see a thermal, I can't get out of it. And I have skills to maybe, 60% level where I'll not leave it. And thermaling in, beer is super easy, but, it really counts your skills when, it is super weak, where it's minus 0.5, but you're there and you can handle that and you can stay inside that. That's when it really counts. So experimenting with super weak thermals, early morning thermals, late evening thermals, and then, jumping from one thermal to the other, etc., etc. It's an ongoing game, but get the basics and the foundation strong to build on it. Otherwise, if your basics are not strong, your glider is, like you're busy controlling it, how will you sense it? So you need to be really, good with your active piloting skills, good with your turns, good with opening and closing, for the mind to be now, have the bandwidth to start to feel and be able to understand and map the thermal and know where the core is, and then, coring it, etc. So make sure you go step by step and enjoy the game. It's really beautiful. Even bombing out and getting out of the thermal is fantastic because it kind of prepares you to go in again and try better. So yeah. Okay. I think we covered this, last year as well, and there are amazing sessions we had on thermaling and cross country. You can, have a look at that as well. Okay. Next question. We are 1 hour, 18 minutes. Okay, Vanik, you can take the next one. Or Rohit can start. If I'm planning to buy a new wing in the recent future, should I do an SIV with my old wing and then buy a new wing? Especially if I'm planning to deploy reserve and land in water. I think Malhar asked this question. So go for it. Quick, sharp. Yeah.
Okay. So I did the exact same thing. I had a BGD base with a high B and an ENA with the Bolero. You're not going to get high resale value for your glider. Okay. If you love the sport, understand it, you're going to spend a lot of money. Forget about trying to penny pinch and pussyfooting your expenses. It's going to cost you money. So what you do is you do all the maneuvers on your hot ship, which is accelerated dives and asymmetrics and stuff like that. And on the last day, when it's time to throw your reserve, to understand the procedures of a PLF and to how to depower the glider and how to come down safely, you use your old glider. And then you put up an ad on Paragliding forum saying that I have done my SIV in freshwater lakes and sell the goddamn glider and get on with your new hot ship and go flying big.
I was planning something of the same thing because I don't plan to resell or anything. I want to utilize the glider to the full. Yeah, I mean, afterwards I can use it for ground handling or do something else.
Give it ground, give it to a friend, give it to a school,
yeah, exactly.
Donate it, whatever. But on the last day, you can use your old glider for reserve throws because it's really good to understand how to come down on a reserve, how to, unleash yourself from the harness when you're in the water, how to, do the flotation with your harness and stuff. For that, the old glider and the reserve is okay.
That's a good idea.
The new hot ship, I'm sorry?
Yeah. That's a good idea. I mean, I will, before doing an SIV, I'll buy a new glider and then take both of them to the SIV.
The new hot ship, you just do all your accelerated stuff and ASIM.
So that's cool. That's really helpful.
Rohit, quick one.
No, I think Vanik pretty much covered everything. Nothing more to add. Just that you're talking about ENA and I'm not sure what you are. If you have never done any SIV and currently you have hot B, my advice will be to do your first SIV on ENA possible if you have the earlier wing.
I get to know low B right now.
Okay. So like, for example, I have done like a few 5, 7, whatever SIVs now, and some high B can really surprise you. they can be even more jumpier than even ENC gliders at times. So my advice is learn the basic on a simpler glider. If you have done one SIV, then don't worry. I mean, then you know the whole sequence, how it feels to fall down. You know, it's already stressful to fall down, you know, in your stall. And when the glider really dives like crazy, you know, in a hot ship, that's another stressful level. So if you have done that one with not much of a dive, you are more confident. And then your brain is still processing it, reacting it. So if it's your first SIV, I'll try to do it on the older glider once. You can always ask the SIV instructor some additional days. After you finish it on the old glider, then you do again, whip out your new glider and do some, at least the main maneuvers without stall or whatever, that's your choice. But, you know, learn step by step. I mean, do not jump on a high glider of your first SIV. It can scare you. And more than scare you, it can discourage you, you know.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Yeah, I would support that advice. First SIV should be on a docile kind of a wing. But about SIVs, I think, you know, like people just do one SIV and they think they've done SIV and it doesn't make any sense at all. You know, one SIV is nothing at all. I mean, it is simply just better than doing nothing. Okay. I mean, it's better than nothing. That's all. You should do SIV like every season and even more, you know, like it's not that the, you know, did the exercises in the SIV and now it's over. No, I mean, you should be able to stall and recover by yourself, because if a situation demands, you can get out of it and you should be able to do it. So like Rohit mentioned, one SIV can scare you as well. It is only in the second, third, fourth you really, you know, understand your glider. So that's yeah, it's a little additional tip on that. Okay, next question is an interesting one from Jahan Noble. What is one piece of advice you'd give to your past self when they just began their paragliding journey? Okay, so everybody has to kind of say that. I'll invite, you know, like senior people who have experience, what they'd like to, you know, say to this. So let's go. Sajid, are you there? Sajid didn't like this question too much. I don't know why. I think it's really interesting. It's challenging me big time. Okay, Sajid, we start with you.
Yeah, I think the only advice that I would give is, the only advice I would give myself is not to stay on the A wing for a longer time. I stayed there for a longer time, and it took me some time to go to a B wing, and I could have done that earlier and done better flying. The A wing, the longer I stayed on the A wing, it actually pulled my flying skills down, and I realized that in B when I couldn't penetrate a thermal. So yeah, that's it.
Rohit?
One simple piece of advice would have helped was when you have basic skills sorted out, don't wait in your home yard or your day-to-day flying site. Start going to new sites and fly there for a good block of time, like 10, 15 days, because you can keep learning on every day rather than this weekend sort of flying. I know it's difficult for like a family and everything, but still that's what the real learning will happen. So if you can, please do that.
Okay. Vanik?
Yeah. Run away from ground suck. Be aware of the company which you are in. There are people who talk about paragliding and there are people who fly the paraglider. So please stick to the flyers. Get out of that talking company and just keep flying as much as you can. Keep it.
Okay, so I also found this question quite challenging, and I was wondering, nothing was coming yesterday, but today what comes to my mind is that, you know, have fun, you know, have more fun with your flying. I often say this, like, you know, don't fly to be happy, fly because you're happy. You know, it's your expression of life, to celebrate life, fly. I mean, have fun with your flying and fly more. Yeah, so that's what kind of comes to me in this direction. Okay, next one. What can one do in the off season to help with their paragliding skills? Oh, yes, this is an interesting question. And we were thinking about having a whole big session on this, and maybe not just one, maybe more. So I'll just mention a few things that come to mind right away, that what you can do in the off season. Number one is get to know your equipment better. So if you can buy a strap, these are easily available to hang and get into your harness, and get your harness settings perfectly right. You've got to hang it properly, like the risers that you hang, the strap that you use should be going wide a little bit, just like a paraglider, so you get the closest to the reality. And then get comfortable being in the harness. Just sitting in the harness, being in the harness makes you comfortable with the scenario of flying, and you get comfortable with that. You can spend a lot of time with get more comfortable with your weight shift, and spend some time with your harness if you need to, like okay, pee now, so you got that thing sorted. If you want to talk on the radio, you want to pull out your sandwich now because you start soon doing long flights. So get familiar with this kind of stuff, how to talk on the radio when you're flying, you'll be doing XC flying. So get familiar with things so that they don't add to your nervousness when you're in the air. So that's one. Number two that comes to mind is reserve. You have, time now to get to know your reserve better. So learn how to pack your reserve, there are videos, and get familiar with this, and you will feel confident that I know what's in there. I know it works. I know how to, pack it and how to install it. These are two very different things, and need to do that really well. There can be a situation where you had a collapse, you were low, and you kind of somehow managed to land somewhere on a mountain, and and your reserves opened up, or you deployed and landed on the mountain, and there's no help, and you need to pack it, and there is, of course, maybe time to launch again, and it is possible you might need your reserve, and you don't know how to pack it. So it's a good idea to prepare for the extreme scenario that, okay, I can pack this, I can put it, and I can reuse it in the air. So it's a good idea to get familiar with packing if you really have time, how to pack your glider and how to really install it. And then on your harness you can practice. You can't practice enough getting familiar with the handle and throwing it, because it can save precious life-saving seconds. It can make a big difference. So this is what you can do with your time, with your equipment. Number three is the instruments. Rohit did a session last season on instruments. We can do some more. We go a little deeper maybe. Get familiar with the instruments. You shouldn't be struggling, to look like, okay, I want to look at this, and you're wasting time, because it should be you look down and you know where to look, and you get the information, and you're looking out again. Because flying also is kind of becoming a little virtual, and pilots are going more and more into the instruments, and it's not even safe also. You want to just look and get the information you need, and you're looking out again. So get really familiar with the instruments, set your page right, see what you want to wear, what is ideal for you, and get familiar with looking at it, picking up the information you want, and then you're looking out for clues from the sky. So that is another thing you can do with the instruments. Get really familiar how to put waypoints, or just get really familiar with the instruments. That's additional thing that you can do. Then, of course, there are brilliant books in the market. I showed you last time. I still have this. This is one which I think every club pilot should have in your free time. It's a beautiful book. Just read on stuff that is not really sure, not really clear in my mind. Just clarify what I need to work on, etc. So there are amazing books. And then, of course, there are tutorials and training videos which are there, which can further add to your knowledge. That's another big bank of information on the internet to get specifically what you're looking for. So that's another thing, to educate yourself better in the sport. The more you know, better decisions you can take. Next is studying the flights. I was talking to Rohit about having a session on teaching everyone how to study flights using Ivory and using XC contest, where you can really see, okay, what was the forecast, what was the flight, and get a little idea that, okay, this kind of forecast, this is possible. And you can study flights in different sites and get a real good view of things, to be able to fly in that area. So we're going to work on that and bring those kind of sessions as well. But yes, you can study flights of different pilots as to what they're thinking, what decision they're making. And this kind of analysis really opens your mind and puts you to the next level in terms of going further in the sport. So skill wise, of course, if you have a place and you have a ground and you can take a glider out and do ground handling, of course, I mean, that's best. And there are so many exercises that you can do to up your skills with the glider if you get a chance and you have the opportunity weather-wise to play with your glider. So that's what comes to my mind to share briefly as to what you can do to improve your skill, knowledge, attitude, and approach to the sport. And of course, organizing sessions like this, attending them and asking them things that that you can really clarify and bounce off with others to get a better insight into that. So yeah, that's that. You want to add something, Rohit, Vanik, Sajid, to that?
So something that I'll add is many of you have been club pilots for some time now. You may have done your SIVs, you may have done your flying, and I pretty much record most of my flights. I mean, we'll talk about how to do it safely later, but I have the GoPro camera over my head. And I was asked once that, what do you do with all that videos? And I tell them that since I don't get to fly that much, I actually go back, and especially in the rainy days like that, I can revisit my own flights, my own SIV trainings, and your mental, recalling of your memories and your sensation, how you were feeling, with relooking at the videos again on some of the critical points. You may have some collapses or SIV maneuvers. By just remembering them, your memory cells can be again recalled. Just like vaccination, the second shot really gives a memory to your antibodies. The same thing. You relook at some of those stressful moments. Two things happen. One is what was very scary for you, that collapse, when you see that actually in a video, doesn't look that scary. That's one. Second is, by recalling those experiences and how you handle them and where you could have done better, you are training your mind. In fact, I can give an example. If there's some new maneuver that you have been trying to learn, let's say wing over or whatever, you have given the instruction and you have the video of, let's say, someone instructing you. Start again looking at that video and instruction and start seeing whether you were actually following that or not. And if you just do the mental simulation of you actually sitting in a harness and doing that as per the instruction, I'm sure you can improve. The next time you actually start flying, you can recall all that and use this time effectively.
Yeah, I mean, like as you mature in the sport, analysis, plays a huge role in you developing as a pilot. So this is what we try to do in school as well. We have these long debriefing sessions to prepare you to know how to analyze, self-awareness, self-analysis of your flights, so that once you're independent, that you can really analyze. And that's the key for growth as a pilot. When you're analyzing your flights, you're going over the pain points in a particular flight and how to improve that. So that's really one of the keys to get better.
I want to add one slightly off topic thing to this, is that you need to plan your season. If you're planning to fly from, let's say, October to May, and let's say you want to dedicate at least 4 weeks of your time for flying, and if you have a goal of say 60 hours or 100 hours, you need to start working backwards. So if I want to be able to thermal in beer in October, then I need to do an SIV in September. Then if my SIV needs to happen in September, then my takeoffs and launches and landings should be perfect. So I need to start kiting by August. So when you start writing stuff down and you plan an entire season, you'll see that it's a series of steps. It's not like you just pick up your bag and go one day, and then you are scandalized by the air mass and you're scared, and you just wasted your time and money when you go to a place when you're not ready for it. So I feel working backwards. And what I did personally was I did my thermaling with Avi in Panchgani, and I did thermaling in Beer. And I did all my training in 6 months. Like it was SIV, thermaling in Beer, thermaling in Panchgani. Yeah, it was all in a row. And before that, I had gone to Bali. So it all happened in a matter of 5-6 months. I went from like 10 hours or something to like 70 hours or something in like a matter of one season. So when you write stuff down and you plan it that way, you will see that you need to do a series of steps, and you need to be very honest about your time and your money aspect of things. So that's my point too.
Okay, thank you, Vanik. That was spot on. There's one more question which I actually don't have the answer at the moment. What's the cost? Muhammad Aslam is asking this. Hi, Aslam. What's the cost and time involved for a beginner to become a tandem pilot? Okay, fantastic question. Please drop me a mail. I will need to do some maths on this and then get back to you. Time-wise, if you have really, you're free. I mean, I think 2 seasons can take you from beginner to, at least a non-commercial tandem pilot license. So yeah, and cost-wise, APPI 1 to APPI 5. APPI 5 or IPPI 5 is the basic requirement to go commercial. The first course that you do is non-commercial tandem pilot, which some senior club pilots here have done it, and they've got their non-commercial tandem pilot licenses, and that's why they fly their friends. Sajid is one of them, and Rohit and Viz. So I would give it 2 years, maybe, from zero to qualified tandem pilot commercial. Okay, so fine. Nina, if you have some questions, we can address them.
Yeah, there is one more from Pratik in the chat.
Okay.
He says, in case if we have time, okay. Do we have acro sites in India to practice, or is it during SIV season that we can get the taste of it?
Okay, so good question. We are very lucky. Tower Hill is a great place to practice acro. Okay, you take off, you gain height, you go out, you practice, come back, and you can spend hours in the sky, but making sure, it's not crowded, and you really, go out and have clear airspace and practice there. So yes, Tower Hill is fantastic. And even Pavna, on good days, we gain super height. I'm able to do stall, I'm able to do sat, I'm able to do wing over in one flight and come back, gain height again. So yes, I would also like to add that B glider is beautiful to do all acro maneuvers. You don't need an acro glider right away. Okay, so a B glider can do every acro maneuver, and then maybe think of a freestyle glider first, and then progress to an acro glider. Okay, so yes, Tower Hill is there, and you can practice, but practice what you're comfortable with, and within the limits which I talked about earlier, that you should know that what is the worst that can go wrong. Okay, in a wing over, worst that can go wrong is I get a huge asymmetric and I go into a rotation, but I'm confident how to get out or how to control an asymmetric rotation. So I can practice wing over. I give an example of SAT as well. You pull less, you're getting in the entry, you pull less, you will go into a spiral dive. You pull more, you go into a dynamic spin. I know how to get out of a dynamic spin comfortably. I know how to get out of a spiral comfortably. I can go into SAT. So like this, all maneuvers have an entry, staying in, exit, and what can go wrong. And you know how to get out of that because you've done it in SL, you practiced it. Now you can practice that comfortably. So go in a systematic fashion like this. And yes, you can practice a lot in Kamshit, a beautiful place to practice acro. Okay.
There is one more from Ashish Singh.
Yeah, Ashish.
Yeah, I'll read it. I am an APPI 3 pilot, having flown in Beer for 2 seasons. doing courses with TP. Next season, I would like to go to Beer and also try flying independently. I am aware that some club pilots do that and have their friendly groups. If I wish to tag along or join in with some of these folks, what should be my approach? Should I drop a message in club group? I have a flying friends with the community, but this is for the cases when they are not available. Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm sure like this question must be there, with many pilots here. So I would say that if you want, an approval that should I go, fly in Panchgani or fly in Beer by myself? Well, if you have APPI 4, it is saying that yes, you can. Okay, which does not mean that that you're not exposed to risk or danger. Okay, but as far as the structure is concerned, internationally, you have done APPI 4, which means you've done a couple of thermaling courses, and at Panchgani and B, yes, please go ahead and explore. And what are your flying hours, Ashish?
It's about 35.
Yeah. So if you are confident, you've done thermaling courses, so we're going to be there anyway. So go in the right way about it, make sure you do some bit of, refresher training before you go, because you're rusted. We're all rusted. You do some bit of refresher training. I crack my takeoffs. I get confident with my takeoff landings. I also know, having flown in Beer, what are the expectations, what kind of launches there are, what kind of landings there are. So already I have that, back up with me. So yes, please go ahead. Make sure you get your APPI 4. That's number one. Number two, this club is a beautiful club, please write a message. Okay, guys, I'm planning, is anybody there? And guys are really, looking forward to, grouping up, and, it's always a joy to have others, with you. So that is also open. And in October, the school is also there, and you can be, part of a weather briefing or debriefs if you like. We are always open, people who've been with us. Every time we are in Beer and doing our thermaling courses, guys who've done thermaling courses before, join us for debriefs, because there's always more to learn. So more than welcome for that. And anybody and everybody will be happy to help you out. That's why we are there, for each other. So I hope I answer your question.
Yeah. Thank you. It was more geared towards, of course, having the right skills and right licenses. It was more geared towards, how to join other gangs, which you have no acquaintance with. How do you approach that? Simply dropping them a message, asking them in the group, and, because you have different levels of expertise, and, people want to go other way, people want to do other things.
Yeah.
So just finding a right match of folks that you can fly with.
Yeah, well, it goes like this, okay? That, every pilot, any independent pilot would have a plan, I have a plan for myself. Or, let us say, I fly with, Sajid, and, both of us have a plan today, like, we plan to do something together. And we both might not have, the space for somebody else to kind of, like take on or whatever, because of the difference of level. So in that case, you will develop friends who are your level and who you click with, etc. Otherwise, if you're going independent, okay, like initially, like have plans for yourself. Like, okay, first day I stay, like in the house thermal and +1 and -1, and I just polish my skills of thermaling on the first day. Okay, and of course there are guys, on the takeoff. You say, okay, Vanik is there, and these guys are also there, and I've already connected with them. And you'll have a little chat, before launch. Okay, what do you think of the day? And of course, after the end of the day, you find somebody that'll be more than welcome to welcome you in their group to chat about your flights. Like how did you do? How was your day? What did you do? So all this kind of opens up, to you, and you don't have to really work towards it. You will find your cliques. You will find your, friends, and who you vibe with, and and it happens quite beautifully, organically. And here, like you're getting to know guys already, like this session, for example, you got to know everybody more, and these are guys like who are really open, for any kind of suggestion, guidance, whatever you need. So yeah.
So Avi, can I just add a little bit into it?
Please, please.
Yeah, so it's quite simple, and even I had the same question. I mean, I was flying with a bunch of guys for quite some time. I wanted to go to be not many were traveling. So I asked the same question to Wiz at that time. Hey, how do I go about doing it? He said, just show up, but ensure that you have the basic skills. Avi mentioned about APPI 4 level. I would add to that your basic takeoffs, landing in a nil wind condition. Once these basic things are all ironed out, your SIV, you know how to handle when things go rough. Once this is ironed out, then you just have to show up. And pilots are a bunch of hungry people to share their knowledge, you will be tired of people telling you hajar things in, sometimes too much stuff at times. So I don't believe that's a problem. The problem is pilots can't handle taking responsibility of someone. No one is going to babysit day in, day out. No one's going to watch you taking off safely, landing you safely. That's not what pilots going to do there. But every day they'll be talking about the weather, how things look like, what's a safe thing to do. If you ask them, hey, is that a good plan for me to go to, let's say, Red Temple and land? You can all ask hundreds of questions. But keep in mind, joining the group of other pilots doesn't mean they are there to guide you and watch you in the air. That's when, if over the time, you will develop a buddy system. Typically, you'll start hanging out with a pilot of your experience. You both will start timing your takeoffs together, being in radio contact. Most of us who fly in Bean, we create 2-3 groups of different levels, and we fly with the radio contact. Soon you will be part of such radio contact. So you will feel better that people know there have been 4 pilots in this group. They watch for everyone landed safely and so on and so forth. So simple answer, get your basics right and just show up. Everything will fall in place.
Thank you.
To add, to that, you've done thermaling courses. We're also doing XC courses, wherein, we as instructors, fly with you and we take you, like 20, 25, 30 kilometers and fly with you. So if you're looking to, do some cross country with the, the school, then those courses are open, and, you have the safety of, instructors guiding you, flying you there on the radio, and they're flying with you. And having done that, you now know, that, okay, I can go and do this by myself now. And you are, independent also, because the joy is also flying by yourself. That's one of the greatest joys of it, exploring yourself and flying further yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's always also a joy, to fly with others. Okay. Nina, do we have more questions?
Yeah, one more last one. Joel, would you like to ask your question? Joel Ahmed.
Hi, Joel.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm audible to you?
No. Can you write your question?
Now, am I audible to you?
Yes, you are.
Sir, I would like to understand from you is at the early stage of a progression of a pilot, what are the key signs you look forward or you understand from that a pilot will pursue or he will be good at, and supplement to that when he's like into intermediate or in expertise level, in which category or the sector of our paragliding he should pursue, or I mean, of course, it's a matter of interest also, but looking at the scale and understanding, what are the key points that pilot has to take care of, that, whether he take paragliding as a sports or for an hobby or for any other thing. So what are the key signs you look forward at the early stage, and when the pilot is in intermediate stage, sector should choose apart from his courses?
Okay, I missed the last part because it started going a little disruptive. But I understand your question, I think. I'll just repeat. You want to ask, like, what are the signs where,
Right, sir.
where you come to know whether, this sport is meant for me, and should I take XC, acro, or should I go professional or not? So, I mean, like it's really a free will choice, I think anybody who is interested in the sport and loves it and wants to go like, the whole hog and make it a profession should go for it and make it a vocation. So if you're loving it, I think the measure is, do you enjoy this? Okay. And if you're enjoying it, like for me, for example, I couldn't think of doing anything else. I could have become an airline pilot because I had the aviation background, but it didn't interest me. I mean, only flying interested me. So it was very clear that nothing else interested me. And that's why I kind of continued in this. So as you progress, like you start your, P1, you do a 10-day, you do a 20-day, you do more flying, and still, like, whoa, wow, oh, wow, oh my God, wow. It's you're finding it interesting. Of course, there will be challenges and some not so great flights, maybe an accident, but you still want to fly. Okay. So I think it really is very personal, number one. And, a measure is, are you enjoying it? And if you are, then just go in any direction you like. You want to become a paragliding guide, you want to become an instructor, you want to become a tandem pilot, you want to become an acro dude, you want to go become a cross-country crack. See what kind of clicks with you more. And so, yeah, I mean, stay open because you might feel different about it, like after some time. So I generally don't come to conclusions very fast because, things are changing. It's a dynamic life. Tomorrow you may feel very differently. So for today, for now, this is feeling good and I'm doing it. Tomorrow, maybe I stop, maybe I don't know. So I don't know if I've satisfactorily answered your question, but if you
Second, on the first part, as an at the early stage of a pilot, what are the key signs to look forward to? I mean, a pilot has a good attitude. These are good attributes. Or this pilot having especially this attribute.
okay,
He is like, will pursue this thing in future. What are those signs that you look forward to?
So one is enthusiasm. One is enthusiasm. The way the how earnest and enthusiastic a person is a sign that this guy will continue and go long or not. Okay. So I think first thing is the enthusiasm and the earnestness of a particular person. So that's a clear giveaway whether this guy will continue and go long or not. Number one. Number two, other signs are like like this guy is really humble and respectful to nature. He's humble to learn, respectful to instructors to learn and get as much knowledge. So yes, not carrying unnecessary baggage and not carrying unnecessary fears. And these are some of the signs that show that this person will continue and go for long term. But top of the list is interest, enthusiasm, earnestness, and then humility and respect. The humility to learn, respect of the dangers and the risks that this sport has, and is kind of tuning in quite early to the discipline that this sport demands. Humble enough to listen to criticism and always wanting to improve. Not really satisfied all the time, easily wants to learn more. If you want to stay safe in the sport, keep learning. If you stop learning, accident will happen. Okay, so make sure that you're learning and growing. You're learning and growing. KK mentioned about the flow chart, your skill, knowledge, attitude, and the challenge. So make sure you're challenging yourself, but not too much. Just enough that it's enjoyable. It's a flow. And I think that's why people love paragliding, because once you get airborne, there is a bit of a challenge there anyway. And you like that. And so go with this very balanced kind of approach where you're continuing to learn and you're continuing to challenge yourself. Something new, something extra. It could be changing a glider. It could be flying a new place, trying a new skill, trying a new maneuver. So like this, you've got to keep growing and stay fresh and, have that learning attitude. So yeah, when we see that, we know that, okay, this person is evolved enough to go further in the sport. Is that okay, Joel?
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. You are somebody who will continue, I know. Okay. So I think
I just
2
want to
hours.
make one remark.
Yeah.
I just want one tiny remark. I think Sajid needs to put up that video where he's evading the tandem. I think it's an excellent learning video because that evasive maneuver, which he's talking about in the first part of the call, you will need it throughout your paragliding life. In Annecy, there are more than 30, 35 gliders in informal. In Bassano, it's the same thing. So evasive action, I think that video is a really good, I'm hoping that he removes all the bad language which he uses. And then if he just puts up that video on the Club Pilot page, I think it's an excellent video to show how, it's a very good video. He's going straight, he's doing his maneuver and a tandem wing is coming straight at him. So, and then he puts like a big, this thing to evade him. So I think that's one request which I want to make.
Okay, so that's the work with the core team, Sajid, Rohit, Vanik, Viz. So we can, have a selection of videos which we can show and talk about. This can also be, part of the sessions. So I'm really glad that we had this particular session, which is an open session. It will give us insight into organize the other ones. And we were thinking that, we'll have sessions which will be like we select a topic, which interests everybody, maybe even a maneuver, let us say just wing over. And, I just talk about wing overs for some time and the process, the learning, and then, we just have a Q&A, just like now we had question answer. So we take a particular topic and we dedicate the whole session to that. So this is one format we are looking at to develop. And of course, we had in mind to show some videos, interesting videos, which we can show and then, decode that and learn from that. So those are the formats we are looking for. We're meeting again. But if you have suggestions and if you have ideas, please share them to make it, an enriching kind of experience for everybody for these online sessions. So I think today was good. Good stuff, good sharing, and enriching in terms of takeaways for all of us. So fine, thank you, and stay safe. Things are beginning to open up a bit, and we see more light. And yeah, we look forward to meeting you again in the next session. And like I said, your suggestions, ideas are welcome to design, the future online sessions. Thank you.